Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Reverend G. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Reverend G, and I'm here every Monday night bringing you conversations with guests from all walks of life and with a lot of different perspectives. We come together and we talk about life, we talk about love, and we talk about spirituality. We talk about spirituality from a practical point of view. How does it support you in your everyday life? What practices did you use when you need a go to? When you're feeling sad, what supports you in moving from that space? When you're feeling stressed, what supports you in moving from being stressed? I talk about the spiritual toolkit, and the spiritual toolkit contains those practices that are personal to you that you can use whenever you need a shift, I would say. So, my guests, we talk about what their spiritual practices are or what's in their spiritual toolkit. And my goal is to support you in finding joy and living your best life with grace and ease. So each week, I hope that you are moved and get something out of the information that's shared. You can find me every day on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason and on Instagram as Rev Grenetta. I say that so many times I get it mixed up sometimes. So you can find me every day with inspirational messages. So check it out. Tonight I have a special guest. I have Adam Cruz, and Adam is an entrepreneur and he's done so many things. I'll have him introduce himself to you. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Grenetta. How are you doing today?
Good. I just introduced you as an entrepreneur because I know you worked with me, then you wrote a book, then you wrote a game, now you have a company, right? So,
Yeah. I like to.
I know that you founded your own company, right? And so talk to us about um what's interesting for me is called Independent Thinking Inc., right? So how did you come up with that name and what does that all mean? Independent Thinking Inc.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you. I do a lot of different things. I'm always in the move. I always like to stay active, and a lot of things interest me. So I try and not take on too many things on my plate. But
Mhm.
even trying to do it like that, I always find multiple things on my plate.
Mhm.
But as far as the name, that's pretty interesting. I actually was going to go with a different name when I was doing my corporation,
Mhm.
and I just wasn't able to use it because it had the word equity in it. And
Mm.
when it comes to like finance words like that, you have to be
Mhm.
very careful when putting uh, making a corporation and choosing a name. So
Mhm.
then I had to kind of think of one fast,
Mhm.
and I a big part of what I want to do is help people become more critical thinkers and think for themselves. So
Mhm.
I want to equip people with the tools that are going to help benefit them on a day to day
Mhm.
basis. So I thought about independent thinking. I was like, all right, I got to put an ink in there. So independent thinking Inc. ITI. So
Mhm.
I thought I had a good flow. Um,
Mhm.
I thought it kind of was aligned with my mission.
Mhm. Well, that's interesting that you say you want to teach people critical thinking is something that you're interested in. How do you have what ways will you do that? Is there like a program you've created or how does your company operate? The mission is to support people in critical thinking. How?
Yeah, so the mission is really to make learning engaging and fun, right?
Mhm.
And uh, I think one of the problems with school is that a lot of it's informational and you don't really apply your learning. So I want to, so I set out to take things that were important and that students or people would use on a day to day basis. So right now the vehicle is financial literacy, and
Mhm.
I have a series of workshops. I also have um, a card game that I'm making centered around financial literacy, and I also have like I guess a crude humor stock trading book as well.
Mhm.
And it's all to engage learners and then also give them actionable next steps of how to use the stuff that they learned in the real world. I was having a conversation with my friend the other day about critical thinking, right?
Mhm.
I think all of us remember back in school, right? If you're taking like social studies or a class like this, you'd have like
Mhm.
your four, like 5 questions at the end of the chapter. Four of them
Mhm.
were just like reading, regurgitate, right? You'd
Mhm.
read the question, look it up in the book, answer it. That fifth question is always critical thinking. And
Mhm.
I don't know about everybody else. Personally, I was like, damn, like, what is it? I gotta do extra work now? Like,
Right.
just let me find the answer and be done with this homework.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it was almost like critical thinking was a bad thing, and you were kind of deterred from doing it.
Mhm.
That's bad. We want people to think. We want people
Mhm.
to start applying the things they learn and really just kind of figuring things out, trying things out, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. Um, yeah.
When you said that the first project is financial literacy, right?
Mhm.
Um, your program is geared toward youth, adults. Who is this financial literacy geared towards?
Yeah, financial literacy is an interesting topic because
Yeah.
we taught on so many levels and so many different ages. Um, and honestly, I I'm able to because I have it's a small organization, so I'm
Mhm.
able to manipulate lesson plans as needed. So I can do adults. I could you know do workshops for adults, workshops for youth. Um, what was it? It was last summer. What was this past summer? Yeah, 2021. I did a workshop for middle school. It was middle school and then high school,
Mhm.
and it was centered around stock trading. So it
Mhm.
was like a series of 5 workshops, and it was just like the bare bones basics of like what is the stock market,
Mhm.
what are assets versus liabilities, and
Mhm.
then we had a virtual stock trading.
Mhm.
So students were able to create an account and compete pretty much to learn how to actually stock trade, learn the functionality of it on an
Mhm.
online account, and
Mhm.
then just get a better understanding of what we were learning in the class.
It's interesting when I think about like the curriculum that middle school or high school financial literacy or financial planning was not a part of that for so long, right? So is the goal to for you and your company to make it like a commonplace like thing for kids? And I know things are changing now where financial literacy is important, right? Is that your program? Are you taking it to kids? You said you did a middle school program, right? How important do you think it is to get this through to all kids?
Well, it's critical. Like financial literacy is super important, and I don't know. Have you seen that Florida just passed a new bill to have financial literacy as a requirement for passing high school?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So and these bills take a long time. They're very slow. So I know there's a lot of movement to try and get this passed, and they finally got it passed now
mm-hmm,
because I guess the pandemic happened, and they
mm-hmm,
realized like um, people need financial literacy more now than ever. So they finally passed it in Florida, but
mm-hmm,
you only need to take 1 semester of financial literacy. And the reason why I chose financial literacy as the vehicle for right now is like in high school you learn through all your schooling actually you have to take half a year of economics. That's all the finance learning you get, and you're in school for like 12 years, right? You take all those 12 years. You're taking English all 12 years.
right.
You're taking social studies all 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Ask me what a preposition is. Like forget about it, right? So I'm like nobody's asking me that on a day-to-day basis or any all those
Right.
components, like literacy components. Like reading's definitely critical because you can read,
Mm-hmm.
you can learn anything,
Mm-hmm.
but like we use finance every single day, and we spend no time on it at school. You know, it's Yeah, it's just really
Yeah,
bad.
you know what it brings to mind too, because I would say there's levels of financial literacy. So at say at the middle school age, maybe teaching them about saving and banking and those things, right? And then the level to where they're interested in the stock market is a whole nother level of financial literacy, you know. So even to I think the trainer will have to look different based on the age group, I guess, and the level that the student is at that time. So it would be interesting to see financial literacy put in all of the curriculums. As you say, Florida is doing it. So it's great that they get a basic, but it's senior year, right? Which is
Probably.
yeah, but you know what? That's really good too, because when you think when you leave high school and go to college, right? With no understanding of credit cards and everything. You know how many students got caught up in that whole thing with no understanding of how the loan system works. And you know, right, with no real financial sense of what was going on, you saw many college students fall into a lot of debt.
Yeah, yeah, and it's yeah, because and most people don't even adults. A lot of adults don't know anything about personal finance. Like they don't know the difference between revolving credit versus installment credit, or revolving debt versus installment debt. Um, you know, it's like a credit score. What's a good credit score? What's a bad credit score? How to like what are the different components of your credit score that you can really tackle to help raise it? Um, there's a lot to learn, and it's just people want it at different points in their lives. So even if the curriculum were to install financial literacy, I think there's
Mhm.
always space to still have it as an extracurricular, um, like I don't say activity, but extracurricular activity, extracurricular learning.
I
Uh,
think that's happening now, though. I feel that, like I was gonna say, I feel that in like after school programs and programs outside of the school, I think that they do some financial literacy, you know, type programs outside of the curriculum, you know.
mm,
And I think that I've seen that start to happen more. So I think you're on time with putting programs like that together. What came to mind though when you said about financial literacy, uh, many adults don't right know the things that you're talking about. So we just like out here, um, but does it? Yeah, the impact of the finances and everything. Like you said, the credit score, people don't know about that until they have to buy a house or until they want some credit. And then they have to figure out all about credit scores and all of that. You know, it just came to my mind how many people really, yeah, a lot of people need financial literacy.
and I would say honestly, another big part is like people of color, we don't talk about it enough. Like, and Grenada, you worked for Chase at some point, right?
Yes, I did. Right.
How many people looked like you at Chase at working at Chase?
Uh, on my level, not many. But on, you know, on I always used to say they was set up so where all the workers were brown people, the people who were do because I worked in the funds transfer area, so it was computer based. But all the most of the people that were on the computers on that, they were black and brown people, but the people in the management, they weren't. So that's how it looked for me at Chase, right?
Hmm.
um, when I was there. So there were a lot of inequalities going on there when I was there, right?
Hmm.
And so yeah.
Yeah, and my thing is, I know like we're starting to. I feel like as a society, we're progressing and getting better and better.
Hmm.
And like the more like people of color we have in like these finance type of jobs, finance fields, the more it's talked about within the community, the more people are interested in it, the more because the more you get interested in things that you're exposed to and that you hear more about.
Hmm.
Um, and a reason I bring this up is because like I'm doing my financial literacy thing, as my independent business. On my day job, I do work in education, Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I work for an organization that helps people get into finance tracks, like finance careers, and like it's all tied together, right? I think exposure and conversation is super important. Um,
Well, what comes to mind when you say you have this group that supports, and is it supporting all people or brown and black people in getting into these fields, right? What are the criteria? Because see, we have to have a whole special program to get us ready, right? That's what comes to mind, right? For me, it's like, yeah, you go, the channels that we have to use, right? Although we may be ready, there's no recognition of that except that we go through a program. That's what comes to mind, right? So when we talk about so many minorities get degrees in finance and technology and all the fields that you're talking about, supporting them in um getting jobs. Is that the whole idea?
yeah. So right now, I'm working at an organization called Year Up,
Hmm.
and their main mission is to bridge the opportunity divide, and that's really the fact that there's corporations that have like X amount of jobs, like 12 million open jobs, and there's like 5 million talented young people who need jobs, and like there's this gap, right?
Hmm.
It's an opportunity gap, and
Hmm.
they so the organization's mission is to get the students prepared, trained, and then connect them to internships at these big corporations, and the internships lots of times turn into jobs, and the tracks are in like these fields that we don't normally find ourselves in, like finance and technology.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's excellent, right? That um, the program exists to support and give. I can look at it as, like you said, there's like the divide where the opportunities are readily available. But if you go through your program, they've connected with companies, right? So people can understand that, say, AT&T and the big companies, let's just say AT&T, Chase, banks, and all those, are they connected to your program? And then the students that come through you put them in interns in big companies like that. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So that's in Europe, they've been around since 2000. So
Okay.
I'm just on the recruitment outreach side,
Mhm.
uh, and I
Mhm.
believe in the mission, and
Mhm.
it's aligned with my personal mission. So that's why,
Mhm.
um, I'm really happy to work here in the daytime.
Mhm.
But yeah, they have partnerships with these big organizations like Chase, and they yeah, that's why we're able to provide the internships, and then because the students are trained and they're talented and they're ready, they are hired on a lot of
Mhm.
times. So it's like, the concept is great, and I definitely like that's a big organization that already has it built out. So I figured that I could bring my talents there to help facilitate that instead of trying to
Mhm.
build something from scratch. Um,
Right.
and there's an age range, it's 18 to 26.
Mhm.
Um, so on my personal time, uh, I could spend that time helping, older people, maybe like adults who might need help just on the financial side, just trying to organize things. And even like when it comes to building wealth and investing, I have some background as a stock trader, and like I had my real estate license, so I'm starting to dive into that a little bit too.
Mhm.
Um,
I said you had a lot going on, right? Um,
but it all intertwines. It's all heading in the same direction, which is a good thing, right?
mhm.
Which is just trying to share knowledge with people and showing them in very organized steps that they can take action and you know build wealth, build their money, be smart with their money, and make like generational change.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I saw you in talking about wealth and building wealth. um, you wrote the book, your stock book. What was that? Talk about the book that you published. I know what the name of it was, right?
Yeah, so it's a crude humor book on
Mm-hmm.
not to be taken too serious as far as the style of
Mm-hmm.
writing, because it's cursing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the so stock trading for a-holes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you spell the word out at the end,
Yeah.
but yeah, you can find it on my website independentthinkinginc.com. But yeah, it's really meant to finance and stock trading can be a little bit dry and boring,
Mm-hmm.
and people want to get into it, right? People are interested in trading, but to read and learn everything you need to,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you could easily get hurt in trading. So it's critical to get people the information on how
Mm-hmm.
to not get destroyed by the stock
Mm-hmm.
market. Because it's very easy. Like in 2020, when AMC and GameStop were going crazy, everybody was cheering and everybody online was talking about how much money they made. When it was crashing, how many people did you see online talking about how much money they lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and people aren't learning ways to protect themselves from these big losses, right? And the book really just outlines how to protect yourself more than anything.
Okay. For people who actually really invest, right? How to protect yourself. I was thinking that when we were talking about wealth and generational wealth and financial literacy, what can you think of like maybe one or two tips that you would like to share to support people in moving towards even understanding financial literacy or understanding generational wealth or how to build wealth.
Yeah. So there are what I think is five. I can think of it as five main uses of money. Right. You
Mhm,
can buy things with it. You can save it. You can borrow it. You can invest it,
mhm,
and you can donate it. Right.
okay. Mhm.
Five main uses of money. You have to really understand each use. Most people really just use it to buy stuff.
They just use it, right?
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
they'll they buy stuff or they borrow it to buy more stuff.
Mhm,
And my thing is you could lend, like borrow and lending is the same thing. You could actually be on the other side. You could lend money and make money off of
mhm,
it. You could invest it and make money off of it. Donations is good. It's always good to be charitable. But there's even benefits to donating, tax benefits.
mhm,
Um, but the one of the most important things is to track where your money's going, how you're spending it. So if spending is the one you are most familiar with,
mhm,
you definitely have to track where all your money is going so you can see your spending habits. And
mhm,
then after that, you start creating a budget, right?
mhm,
Those are the cornerstones of financial literacy, right?
mhm,
And finance, it's very personal, right? Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's spending habits are different. There's a lot of psychology behind it. And one of the, I'll give two budgets, right?
mhm,
An easy one that's just math based, that's pretty simple that anybody can do is the 50-20-30, right?
mhm,
So you get your pay, 50% goes for bills, 30% goes for fun, and 20% goes into your savings, right? That way you're able to have fun, enjoy your money, pay your bills, then have something for later, right? You're
At what point do you get to that level, right? Where I'm just thinking in the that it's interesting though, and I don't mean to interrupt you because I think that's good. Go ahead, I'll talk to you about
not
that
slow
later.
conversation. Go ahead, tell me. Tell me what's on your mind.
No, I was thinking at what point do you get your paycheck and you say at 50% it's gonna pay my bills, right? And 30% and 20. I just really thought about um living in New York and how the money comes in. You have to already be able to not live paycheck to paycheck, I guess, if you're gonna be able to allocate like that. So I'm just talking about what comes to my mind when we're talking about what came to my mind is wow. people who don't have a lot of money, will they take the time to even make a budget, right? Because it's like, what am I budgeting? When it comes, it goes, right? And but not really understanding that to budget would be to support having more, but in the midst of it all, right? Money comes in, the money goes out. What am I budgeting?
Yeah, and that's why tracking your spending is is like the first step to see where the money is going.
Mhm.
And like the math-based one, the 50, 20, 30, you could adjust the numbers to what's realistic for you, but you have to make sure you're setting aside money to have fun, and it's not combined with your like your bills money. And you also have to make sure you're always setting aside just a little bit, whether it's for your emergency fund, just starting off, or for your investment fund, right? Because you also can't invest money you need. Like you can't be, like you shouldn't be investing uh, rent, your rent or your mortgage payment. Like don't be doing that in AMC, right? Because the landlord's going to be pretty tight when you tell them, hey, look, AMC's down right now. Give me another 3 weeks. It'll be up, I swear.
Right.
Yeah, so you got to see where your money's going. The other budget I was going to mention is called value-based budgeting, where you list your values, right? And then you track your spending, and then you cross-reference them to see, hey, am I actually spending money on the things that I value? And that opens a lot of eyes. Like it really makes you realize, oh, I'm wasting a lot of money because like I'm buying things that I don't really care about, I don't really value because I'm making impulse buys.
That is interesting. The value based one, yeah. I think what I get from the whole thing is the first step in all of this is tracking your spending.
Yes.
Right? Because as I said, if all the money comes in and goes out, then you got nothing to say, right? However, you could start to look at where you are spending the money and make some adjustments, right? To support moving towards the next stage of being able to save. Um, and I think when I grew up, I always heard them say 10% of the money should go somewhere. Was that the church? No.
Maybe they did say that. Who said that?
Wait, I do know 10% of the money should go to church, but in terms of how much you should take for yourself. Now, in this where's the church, right? In the 50, 30, 20 plan, right?
Yeah, that could be part of your fund money, or that could be part of your bills if you want to think of it like that. Like,
it depends on where you want to put them, right? Well, that's pretty interesting, right? Yeah, and I just think in my mind something about saving so much of your money and having a savings account for all of that. So that you said 20%. Is this app? Look at me. I was like, what you bring home or what? No.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah.
You can't be
It's always net. Because when people are calculating gross, I'm like, what? Like, who cares about the gross income? Like you ain't taking that. You ain't taking that with you. The government's taking some of that. Like
you're not even getting it, right.
Yeah.
No, but I guess I said that because some places when they talked about tithing, tithing is gross and not net. Did you ever hear that?
What'd you say? You said tithing?
Tithing. You know what tithing is at the church?
No, tell me. It's been a while. I went to Catholic school for like 8 years, so I was in the church for a while, but then it's been a while.
So you don't know you're a Christian?
Oh, actually, I'm starting to remember it a little bit. I'm Catholic.
You're Catholic. That's okay. So I don't know. Did they do it like that with the Catholic Church, where they tell you that 10% of all your earnings should go to the church?
I remember them passing a little collection plate around. I remember that twice during the mass. They'd be like, "All right, first time Like,
You know what
all you early people,
it
stay up. All you late people, we ain't forget you. Come on.
is? Yeah, so there's this whole church in the Christian church, and it's where 10% of your money you give to support the church. So it's called tithing, and all the members of the church give 10% of their salary to the church in order for the church to run and maintain. That's the purpose of it, right? But there's a lot around. I don't know a lot enough to talk about it, right? In the Bible, they talk about tithing. I don't know enough about it to explain it to you. And I find it interesting because for you as a millennial, it's interesting for me to talk to you about um, spirituality so we could shift right into that, right? So you grew up in the Catholic Church, you said, when you were young. When did you stop going to church and stop? Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say probably, yeah, probably once I got to high school.
What
I'll
you
be
got?
honest.
No, it's
Yeah, well,
okay.
my parents would bring us to church like on like the holidays, some of the major
Oh,
religious
okay.
holidays. And I've gotten all the sacraments, so I got first communion, I did confirmation, baptism, obviously the first one. So I was able to get the sacraments. But I don't know. As I got older, I just uh, I don't know. Like I'm spiritual, but also kind of a cynic. So I'm like, which kind of I guess I don't know if those go against each other or not, but
Mhm.
um,
What do
I,
you mean when you say you're spiritual? What does that mean?
I don't know. I believe in like the energies, the cosmos, like, and I can't really explain it because I feel like it's beyond man to really explain.
Okay, great.
I think
So give us what you got. You believe in energy and the cosmos. Did, would you do you believe in God, or are you calling the energies and the cosmos God?
yeah, I think it is. I think God is beyond our comprehension. I think humans put things in terms of their understanding, right? So they'll think of God as like a person, when in reality, like God's not going to, at least in my eyes, God's most
You
likely.
said God as a person, right? That's you said we put God as a person.
Yeah, at least in today's society, I think it's funny because I do like to think about a lot of existential things, right? And
Hmm.
religion and spirituality and existence and being is definitely one of those topics I like to think about.
Hmm.
But it is interesting that I think as a society, our religion
Hmm.
kind of follows the way we receive our food. Like, if you look back in the day when we were hunter gatherer society,
Hmm.
we were more polytheistic, right?
Hmm.
We believed in many gods that because we believed in many gods that were in many different facets throughout society, throughout just the world, right? Throughout our interactions with the world. As we started to become more agricultural, and getting our food source from one place, then we started to kind of also say, oh, like narrow it down, like, oh, there's only a few gods. Okay, there's only this many gods. All right, now there's only one God, because it's almost like I don't know. Maybe it's like the human psyche is trying to organize things in the most efficient way possible.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's kind of what we did with our food, and it allowed us to build society. But it would make sense we would do that with our spirituality and our religion also, right?
Hmm.
When it comes down to the like man-made structures, right? And like man is flawed also, so that's why I'm not too into like organized religion, because I feel like so many um, it's very powerful, and I feel like powerful institutions draw people looking for power, so it gets kind of dicey, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So you always got to be very careful, and you have to always like think critically, like is this like this is like the leaders of the all religious institutions, like they're a human being. Is this person trustworthy? Can I trust this person? I have to watch what they're doing. And
Mm-hmm.
like I believe in spirituality that there are things that connect us all to one another, each other.
Okay.
And God being like being there being one God, that could definitely be true because it's like what is oneness, right? Like we're
Mm-hmm.
all one with each other. Everything's one. It all comes from like there could be the collective unconscious. Like Adler was big about that in psychology that we pull from a collective unconscious.
Right.
You know, that could be God. I even got into a real trippy conversation with friends
Mm-hmm.
a few weeks ago about like AI, right?
Like what?
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
say man is able to create true artificial intelligence that's able
Okay.
to think, feel, and do everything humans like behave the way humans behave. Once that happens, are we now not gods? Like we've created a life essentially. Like we created a life, and it wasn't one person who did it. It was a collection of all humans who did it together,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And even to get humans, to get even like dive even deeper, like even to get humans to where we are creating civilizations, all the animals had to work together and sacrifice for humans to get to where we are now.
Right.
So it's like, are they gods as well? Like, are all the animals that helped us get to where we are as humans, are they gods? And then if we're able to create artificial intelligence, are we gods as well? And it's almost like, and then if artificial intelligence creates something else, it's like, is this all like the one? Like we are one. Like we're all one together. It's just trippiness that I
Right. It was pretty interesting because it had me stop and think, right? Right, about a lot of different things, right? I had to write that down. So, but will we ever get to the point where we can create the same equivalent? How close are they to that now that you know? Feelings, emotions, the whole thing.
I think that's the thing. Like I think we're close, but who's to say we're not there already? Like, even now, we can't really describe what consciousness is on a human level. How do we know the machines or AI doesn't already have some form of consciousness? You know, um, you don't really know. Like, are we there? We could be there. You know, and how will we know if we reach it?
Hmm.
Right? The machine's able to make decisions on their own. Like, I don't know. It's complicated.
It really is complicated when we think about spirituality in the context of how we live our lives, right? And when we think about God, as you said, when you're talking about we're all one, yeah, we are all one in the one consciousness. That's the consciousness of God that we all are, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. So what also we all have to figure out what works for us as we live on this planet. What's going to work for you in terms of when you talk about the energy and the cosmos and all of that, that works for you. When you were talking about all of that, I was thinking, what are you going to teach your kids? Will you give them religion, or do you have any idea what you would do with your kids?
Yeah. And here's one of the things where I can do better.
Mhm.
I feel like most people just take on the religion that their parents give them.
Yeah.
Like, this is my religion, take it.
Hmm.
They don't
Hmm.
actually even read up on any other religion, right?
Right.
I would give I guess maybe we'd start off with the one to make it easy, but
Hmm.
at a very early age, I would introduce all the different options that there are, and then
Hmm.
even just that
Hmm.
there's unwritten spirituality as well, right? Whatever you make
Hmm.
of it,
Hmm.
and let them decide what's best for them. But still, a lot of the religions follow kind of some of the same basic principles, which are really just to have you be like a righteous person, like a good person who
Mhm.
cares about others and um,
Mhm.
is giving. Because even like uh, like Islam, like
Mhm.
they have part of Islam is to donate money. Like donating money is like one of the core, like a core principle of
Mhm.
Islamic religion.
Mhm.
And like you were saying, the Christian church, you got to donate your money to the church. Um, so there's a lot of things there that are similar. So it's,
Mhm.
I think a big part of spirituality and religion is to teach like being a good person and doing for others and being part of the collective one.
Mhm. And they all can do that, because what came to mind for me when you talk about being good people, we think of wicked, and it's people think that in paganism, and people put all kind of labels on all the different religions based on their perspective, but they each have their same goals of being kind and good, um, and just different ways. I think there are just, when we say we're in search of like God or God in our lives, there are many ways that that's expressed through many different religions. And talking about spirituality, I think about, based on not necessarily a particular religion, but I was born Christian and I'm studying the Bible now and doing Christian. I think that Jesus was a master teacher, and all the teachings in Christianity, I can follow some of them, and I believe in the teachings and Christ like. But I also um does I don't exclude other religions, right? I don't exclude if you want to be Jewish. I also, because I'm an interfaith minister, though, I study all religions and I experienced all of them. I went to the temple, I did the Ramadan, I did the prayers, so I experienced all of them. I went and I was doing the Buddhism and chanted, and all of those things I experienced, to where I can use all of it, right? But not to the point where I diminish any one of them. So that Christianity stand where it stands, Judaism, and I could take from each one and create what works for me.
Yeah, and you got to be an open-minded person to be able to do that, and it's just hard. I do think that, and bringing it back towards like education, like I really do think school does a number on us and really limits
Mm, mm,
our potential. Because even when you look at school, like the structure is very oppressive, and it's just think like yeah, they do put you in a box, and you can only think within what we tell you, and you have to ask permission to do anything and follow the lesson here. Where like if it comes down to like trying to learn about spirituality, like it really is kind of free flowing and what you make of it. Like yeah, like I think there's a lot of interpretation, and it is what you make of it, and really about like respecting others and
mhm,
um yeah, just trying to live a peaceful life. But a lot of the religions, I like to take the peace part, and take that. I know there's a lot
mhm,
of like violence sometimes throughout the books and things like that, but yeah, there's always like somebody there who's, I think at the core, at least with the um more recent religions, at the core is somebody there saying, hey, look, like let's bring peace. Peace is important. And then you have the factions that break off, and they're like, hey, like they want to get more extreme. They're like, no, no peace. Like if you say what I don't like, then I'm going at you.
mhm,
But I think at the core, it's always like, hey, like
mhm.
let's be kind to each other and accept each other.
Um, you know, I talk about spiritual practices. I call them practices, but yeah, that's what I call them. What tools And what practices do you use to support you? For instance, I would say you have a lot on your plate, you get stressed sometimes. So, what helps you? What do you use when you find yourself like stressed beyond belief?
Uh, I like to exercise. I feel like
Mm.
getting out of shape now, right now, but I
Mm-hmm.
need to get back into it. I just have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of projects going on, especially with the new house we bought. That's why you see this ugly brownish green background. This is the office. I'm gonna transform it. It's gonna look beautiful. But
Right.
yeah, I just have a lot of projects I'm working on. But usually, I like to exercise and push myself. I don't know. I feel like there's something animalistic and spiritual about it. Like you keep pushing your physical self
Mm-hmm.
to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like you start becoming, I don't know. There's something there, something
Mm-hmm.
interesting there that calls to, I guess maybe some ancient psychology or something. I don't know. There's something there. Or have you ever been like in a concert with a crowd full of like people that are really high energy? Like you kind
Mm-hmm.
of feel it also, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like evolutionary psychology. There's something there, and
Mm-hmm.
I think when you work out pretty hard, you kind of start feeling that as well.
So that's your main go-to is just to exercise. So you recently bought a house, right? Uh,
Yes, yes.
and you're a real estate broker, right? What was that whole process like? And what are your next steps with your broker, being a real estate broker?
Great. Yeah. So with the house, we went through me and my fiance went through this program called NACA, NACA.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might have heard of it. If you haven't, definitely look into it. It's a first-time home buyer program, essentially, and their goal is to. Um, they're not a lender. They are combating predatory lending. So it's an organization. You go to them. They make you, lay out all your finances. It's a long process, but the
Mm-hmm.
benefits are legit. Like they are really good benefits.
Mm-hmm.
There's no required down payment, so any payment you put up front, you get back at closing.
Wow.
Um, they in New York, you need an attorney, but they pay for the attorney. They pay
Mm-hmm.
all your closing costs. So yeah, usually when you buy a house, you should expect like 5% of
Mm-hmm.
the price of the house to be like your closing costs.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like a rule of thumb. But so they pay for all the closing costs, and
Mm-hmm.
we also don't pay any private mortgage insurance. So, and if people don't know, private mortgage insurance, if you take out a loan that's and you put less than 20% down, you have to pay private mortgage insurance, which is like
Mm-hmm.
just insurance for the lender that you'll you'll pay the loan. Uh,
But so you say you put no money down?
so we put um, money down,
Mm-hmm.
but we got it back at closing. So you put money down just to be competitive in the market because the sellers want to see you have skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no minimum requirement. So if you could get away with putting 5% down or a few $1,000s, and then the sellers are cool with it,
Mm-hmm.
there's no like, oh, you have to put down 20%, you have to put down 10%. You don't have to put down anything if you don't want to. It just comes down to being competitive, but you get the money back.
So when you go to buy a house and you are NACA, will people turn you down because you're NACA and not want to deal with you because you came through that program?
That is a
Or
very good question. So it really comes down to explaining what the process is. So you definitely want to have somebody in your corner who knows the process and knows how to sell it. Because one of the high selling points of NACA is that you've been it's stronger than a pre-approval or pre-qualification because you've essentially been through like this rigorous process to comb through your finances
mm-hmm.
to make sure that you are able to afford this property. So the money's guaranteed from the bank. Uh, in other places, like they still have to do some things. Like other loan Other loans, you also have to do some things and it still fall through. Once you're approved by NACA, like you've done pretty much everything you had to. And
Mm-hmm.
it also helps you. So two big things, or
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of big things.
Mm-hmm.
Your credit score doesn't matter. Um, they take a look at your payment history, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't say, oh, like how much money do you want to borrow, right? They
Mm-hmm.
ask you, what do you want to pay each month, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then they look and say, so say, hey, I want to pay like $1,500 in
Mm-hmm.
principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, right? I want my monthly payment to be 1,500.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they took a look at your finances. If you pay 1,500 to rent each month, they're like, hey, we see that you can afford this, and you're not late on any payments. We'll,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we'll give you a loan that equates to 1,500 a month. So then you'll see
Okay.
what the number is from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
So
a big.
is it open to anybody? How do they are they selective or anybody could just go do it?
So the only qualification is that you have to not have a property in your name. So it's not really a first-time home buyers program. It's a I don't own any property.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Okay, yeah, that's really good to know. Really great information. And the process, how long you say it would take? A couple of years?
No, the
Or-
process, they look back at your finances over like 2 years, but the process isn't 2 years, right? Like
Mhm,
you're gonna pull your bank statements and stuff like that to show
mhm,
them,
mhm,
or like 2 years of tax returns. Um, and anybody who's interested, like I'll share my email so they could email me and I could give them more information. But the
mhm,
process can take about like eight months, a year. It depends on where you're at though,
mhm.
because you might need to get your finances in order. But there's a lot of counseling to get you to that point where you get your finances in order.
So what does that mean? Get your finances in order in the sense that okay, no, you said you don't have to have a good credit score, right?
Yeah, so you just have to you have to create a budget. You have to create a
Oh,
budget,
okay,
show them your
okay.
budget. You have to track your spending, show them your
Okay,
spending.
okay. So that takes the time. That's the thing they want to see from you. If you already have a budget, if you're already tracking your spending, pretty much it may take shorter amount of
Yeah,
time.
it could be shorter if you have less things going on with your finances.
Hmm.
But like I said, like I have experience with it because I went through it and we
Hmm.
bought our house and our interest rate. Well, we have a 1.75 interest rate, which is
Low.
super super low. Uh,
Yeah.
Interest rates are climbing right now. Um, I think it's at 4.67 right now. The interest rate, like
Hmm.
the general mortgage interest rate. So it's
Hmm.
continuing to climb, but NACA has always below market value interest rates. So you're going to get a really, really good interest rate with them. And
Hmm.
if you have money saved, you could buy down the interest rate. So you can make the interest even lower if you throw some
If
money
you
in.
have money, so it's everywhere. Not NACA is all over.
It's a national program, yes.
National. That's what I want to know. It's the national. So this show is uh I do always like to highlight spiritual practices and spirituality, and we're almost going to close, but I wanted to know, do you have a sense of people your age, millennials, right? Do you have a sense of where they are in terms of religion and spirituality? Is there a movement away from the church towards the church? Do you have a sense of any of that
I think
amongst your friends, I guess?
I think as a society as a whole,
Hmm.
we are the internet's doing a lot of very interesting things to society. I think we are extremely untrusting of any institution. Um,
Hmm.
we don't know what to believe.
Hmm.
But then again, like I said, in school, in a, we grew up 12 years in a structure that thinks for us and tells us what to think. And now we're released and given all this information. Some of it's true, some of it's not. A lot of it's just gray area. And yeah, I think people are just confused. I think people are confused. People don't trust institutions. But the good thing is people are finding connections within communities, within the internet also, right? There are a lot of positive things. So, where people are able to help each other out, go connect with other people, get advice. So there's a lot of good also. But as far as the institution of church, yeah, I think the internet just is providing a lot of information. And yeah, like I said, I'm a little bit of a cynic, so maybe it's being millennial as well. I'm kind of like, I don't trust man-made institution to be pure. Now, the internet is like, it's kind of like crypto, right? Like, the internet's not decentralized, but information is kind of decentralized, where you can pull from a lot of different sources, right? And I learned a lot of stuff on like TikTok and Instagram, just about like the history of different religions from people, researching it and sharing it, right? So I think we can be more informed. It just depends on what you're choosing to feed your brain and your soul, right? The algorithm will feed you what you want. So follow positive things, follow positive thinking, follow things that give you actionable skills, right? And actionable skills is always what I'm going to push. Actionable and engaging.
Well, this has been great talking to you. And how can people find you? You said you were going to give out the information, your website or something, so that people can find you.
Yeah. So real quick, when it comes to anything real estate, you could email me at Adam, ADAM, at greenandgrand.com, which is GREENE and the word grand, GRAND.com. So that's the real estate email. My website's independentthinkinginc.com. So I might start a podcast with my fiance. Maybe in a few weeks.
What's a podcast going to be on?
I don't know. I think it's going to be like a lifestyle, maybe about us. Because we both turned 30 in like last May. So maybe just about lifestyle, business, interviewing interesting people, just growing pains, going through our 30s, maybe something like that.
That's what I was saying. It was interesting talking to a 30-year-old right at this point about, just about the perspective, on religion and spirituality and what is going on in the minds of 30-year-olds,
Yeah, it's funny. My generation's starting to become like the old people. Like Gen Z looks at us and they're like, oh, ew, like what's wrong with you millennials?
Nah.
Gen Z's, they're going to be very interesting. There's a lot of potential. I think I do see a lot of good things from Gen Z. So I think the future's bright.
Cool. Well, thank you, Adam, and I will be in touch with you. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Granetta. And it's always great talking with you, and thanks for letting me be on your platform.
Okay, great.
All right, have a good night.
Bye. Thank you for joining me tonight on Conversations with Reverend G. And I'm here every Monday night, WEMS Radio Live. We're on Facebook and we're on YouTube also. You can find me every day on Facebook as Reverend Granetta Mason, on Instagram as Rev Granetta, giving you daily motivational support. My goal is to support you in finding joy and living your best life. So let's find those practices that support us in finding some joy each day. Have a great week, and I will see you again next week right here at 8 p.m. on WEMS Radio Live.